A huge shout out to Billy Kills for supporting the channel on Patreon. Shalai Voice of Plenty versus Kynaios Tiro of Meletis, Sheoldred Whispering One, and then a couple of partner commanders, haven't seen these two yet, Trynn Champion of Freedom, and Silvar Devourer of the Free. So you would assume that would be a Mardu human tribal list. We have an okay hand. I'm not going to mulligan this one. Just a bunch of lands coming in tapped to start things off. We will go for a tap land of our own off of the Wooded Foothills. Priest of Forgotten Gods now, the first human coming down from the Mardu player. Tap, sack 2 creatures. Any number of target players. Each loses 2 life, sacks a creature, and you add 2 and draw a card. Then Smallpox from the other black player. Lose a life, discard a card, sack a creature, and sacrifice a land. So much for... people get really pissy and sore when I bring it up for some reason, but I did say that this was a casual game and we're already sacrificing lands on, our opponent's turn 2. So let's discard the Lifeblood Hydra. We're nowhere near making that good. Alright, well, we get into another land, thankfully. We'll just grab another tap land with the Misty Rainforest. So at that point, it turns out that an island was sacrificed. Mountain over here. Matisman, friend of the channel, by the way, couldn't do anything on their turn 3, thanks to the Smallpox. Now, another coloured source coming down over here. This is obviously a 4-colour player, so... being put a bit further behind with the island having to be sacrificed. What was discarded, actually? There was a brought back, ironically. Platinum Angel discarded over here. We get into Return of the Wild Speaker. Let's just grab a Gavany Township. And we'll go in for a Mana Rock as well. Buried Alive now from the Mono Black player. And what have they gone for here? There is a Butcher of Malakir. Necropolis Regent, Obnixilis Unshackled, so we can get rid of a couple of those with Scavenging Ooze next turn. I would like to have played the Garruk's Uprising, but I think we have to play Scavenging Ooze now because they might go for some kind of reanimation. Alright, we are getting into lands consistently, thankfully. Let's go for the Scavenging Ooze. And the Mardu player over there has been slowed down consistently thanks to having to sacrifice the land, so just having to tap out and pass. Now let's see if the black player has any reanimation this turn. They might have just been setting up for their Sheoldred. Yep, thought that might eat some removal. I like to think that we kept our opponent from doing what he actually wanted to do this turn, although maybe not. We'll get him rid of Crypt Ghast for sure because I don't want them doubling up their mana. And then it's a choice between Butcher, Necropolis Regent, and Obnixilis. I think Butcher or Obnixilis. I think it has to be Butcher because they can really abuse that. We'll just have to try and work around the tutoring inability with Obnixilis. We won't be able to crack fetches or go for cultivates or anything like that. Well, surprisingly, only with basics, our opponent managing to get out Kynaios Tiro of Meletis. I think we'll go for a card draw here. I don't think we benefit from getting another land into play. So the two of us getting a card draw there. The mono black player eventually deciding to go for Cabal's Stronghold into play. We get a Skyshroud Claim, which we've got 4 mana there. We'll have 3 mana available, so I think it's Skyshroud Claim into Garruk's Uprising. Or maybe we go for Nissa, Voice of Zendikar. We'll have the mana next turn. 4, 5, 6, 7. If we get into a land, we'll have Basri's Lieutenant and Shalai. Yeah, maybe we just go for Nissa here. So let's shock in the Temple Garden, go for the Marsh Flats, we'll grab ourselves a Plains with that. And then I think we'll go in for Nissa in the hope that we get into a land next turn so that we can go for both Basri's Lieutenant and Shalai. Let's get out a plant token because I assume this will come in at Nissa. But it'd be nice to get up to 7 loyalty with that so that we can gain X life and draw X, where X is the number of lands we control. Alright, the Mardu player getting into another coloured source and going up to 3 mana, so hopefully they can get some rocks down next turn. The black player has, what is that, Vesuva coming down as a swamp so that they can get some mana from Cabal's Stronghold. And Torment of Hellfire, alright. Yeah, fun game. Well, at least it's early on. I'd rather it was early on than at this point in the game. I'm just going to lose 3 life 3 times. Oh, now a Sunbird's Invocation from Kynaios and Tiro. That should get them into some nice card advantage. Still got 5 cards in hand, not struggling to make land drops either. It's always impressive when a 4-colour, 5-colour deck with a bunch of basics manages to fix their colours. We do not have a land to play, so let's just go for the card draw. Still hoping for a land so that we can go for that play that we mentioned last turn. It's noteworthy that they didn't swing in at our Nissa either. Alright, a Sun Titan. That changes things. I think we go Sun Titan into Scavenging Ooze then. Let's go for another plant. Or do we want to get down Smothering Tithe? No, I think before the black player reanimates a bunch of stuff, we need to get down the Sun Titan. So there we go, getting the Scavenging Ooze down. That still can't wipe out their graveyard, but it can get rid of most of their stuff. We probably go for... Yeah, I don't like either of these because they're both evasive, but we probably go for Obnixilis so that each of our other opponents still has a means of tutoring for answers against the black player. Although they're running out of sources at this point, they've only got 2 cards left in hand. As well as the Murderous Rider. Now, what is this one? Skursdag Flayer from the Mardu player is 4-tap, sack human, destroy a target creature. I dare say they want to get a bunch of human tokens into play, but they'll need the mana to do that, which unfortunately they are struggling with this game. Now let's see if the black player has a board wipe. No, it is Crucible of Worlds. They've got a swamp in the bin. And Crucible obviously helps them against strip mines on their Cabal coffers and stuff like that. I tend to run Crucible in my mono black decks as well. So playing the swamp, they haven't tapped down the Stronghold yet. Not tapping down the Stronghold, just going for Meletis, Traitor of Get. So our opponent's made their land. I think it's safe at this point to get rid of the Obnixilis. And we've done a nice job of getting rid of the black player's graveyard. They would have gone in for Sheoldred much sooner than this, but without any creatures to reanimate, I don't think there's all that much point in going for Sheoldred, although it would get rid of some creatures from our opponents. Braids, Conjurer Adept, comes down from the Group Hug player, so we're going to be able to cheat in creatures. Might be time to put a plus counter with Basri's Lieutenant onto the Sun Titan. Or maybe we just cheat down that Smothering Tithe. And Ensnaring Bridge as well. Yeah, that keeps creatures from attacking in general, not just our opponent. They've also gotten down Tamanoa. Whenever a non-creature source you control deals damage, you gain that much life. Yeah, I wish something like this was legendary. It would be cool to have lifelink burn spells all over the place. Something that's cheaper than Firesong and Sunspeaker anyway. We are going to draw a card with Kynaios and Tiro. Hopefully that will help the Mardu player get into some lands. And this does mean that we can't attack with our Sun Titan because our opponent over here has 5 cards in hand. They go down to 4 because they got down a Darksteel Citadel. So we're just doing some setting up at this point, I think. We will cheat in the Juniper Order Ranger because it's the most expensive thing. Oh, we actually can't get down a Smothering Tithe with that anyway. What is the Braids? Artifact, creature or land, so you can't do it with enchantments. We get into a creature. Let's go for the plus on Nissa. And that will come down with a plus counter thanks to Juniper Order Ranger. get down a forest here. Now, Juniper triggers when a creature enters, so Shalai isn't going to enter with a plus counter on, it's going to enter and then have one placed onto it, which means it doesn't trigger Garruk's Uprising, unfortunately. Let's see here. Maybe we just go for Shalai and Smothering Tithe, and I'd like to go for Return of the Wild Speaker at some point, so maybe we... Yeah, I think we just have to go for Smothering Tithe here. We'll get into at least one treasure token, I hope, and then we can refill our hand with this. Then I'm certainly not going to swing in with these Scavenging Ooze over here. I just have my eyes locked on this mono black player at the moment, although the group hug player is starting to look quite frightening. Okay, cheating in a Sin Collector and pointing themselves at the black player. They've only got 2 cards in hand, an Ashnod's Altar and Hell's Caretaker. I don't mind taking either of those from them, although, yeah, I'd very much like to see the back of Ashnod's Altar. Anyway, they can't take either of those with Sin Collector. Just good to know that they've got them. And we've now got the mana for our Return of the Wild Speaker. It'd be nice to be able to go for Scavenging Ooze and take the last creature out of the graveyard here. But as long as we've got Return of the Wild Speaker, I'm happy. Then it's destroy a target creature. They are going after Meletis, sacrificing the Sin Collector, which does go into exile thanks to Meletis. So now we've got 2 creatures to exile from the black player. We know which cards they can cheat in with Braids. They can go for Hell's Caretaker, and they do. They have the Ashnod's Altar in hand still, about to draw another card. And they pay for the Smothering Tithe, playing a land, so we know what they drew into. And might as well get down Sheoldred, Whispering One, and start dealing with some of these creatures. Now that our opponent's tapped out, we actually don't need to worry about the Scavenging Ooze on this turn. We just need to concentrate on getting something decent with Return of the Wild Speaker. So do we go for it now whilst everyone's tapped out? I think it might be a good idea, because there is blue mana held up over here. Yeah, so let's go for it now. That'll draw us 6 cards, thanks to Sun Titan. And we get ourselves into Ravenous Slime. Branching Evolution, that's really nice. We'll be able to trigger Garruk's Uprising with the Colonian Hydra, so we've got a few things to do here. Oh, Hardened Scales as well, so getting into our plus counter theme. Might actually be time to minus down on Nissa. The Immortal Sun comes down, which means I don't think we can activate... Nope, we can't activate loyalty abilities of Planeswalkers, so won't be able to minus down on Nissa, unfortunately. We do get a treasure token there, though. And another one from the Immortal Sun. And then our opponent casts a Ludwig, Necro Alchemist, and that triggers the Sunbird Invocation. So we need to start turning our attention to the group hug player now. Seems as though they whiffed on the Sunbirds. Then Mizium, Transreliquit, no idea what that means. Anyway, let's see what they get into off of Sunbirds. They whiff again on that. Just showing the reveal here, just revealing a bunch of lands by the looks of it. So this becomes a copy of a target artifact until the end of the turn, and then for 1 and is it becomes a copy of an artifact, except it has this ability. Stuffy Doll now. I'm sure there's a combo that they can make use of with Stuffy Doll. And this time getting into something that is Eladamri's Vineyard. At the beginning of each player's pre-combat main phase, you add 2 green. So we have to, try and start going off and then remove this thing and smash in towards them. They've got 1 card in hand now, but they will keep drawing with their commander and the Immortal Sun, as well as getting value with the Sunbird's Invocation, of course. Oh, and they did sacrifice the Tamanoa to Sheoldred, by the way. Let's draw another card with Kynaios Tiro. We're going to get Smothering Tithe triggers here. I imagine people are going to draw cards. I know the black player is, because they have an Ashnod's Altar in hand. We get ourselves into Hooded Hydra, which... I really wish we could activate Nissa at this point, because Basri's Lieutenant is kind of like board wipe protection. if we could get plus counters on everything, then we'd at least end up with some creatures after a board wipe. Anyway, do we want to go back round to our turn at this point? I think I'll use the Scavenging Ooze now. We'll get rid of Meletis. And we'll get rid of... I think they've only got one creature left. Yes, the Necropolis Regent. We'll get rid of that as well. So making that a 5/5, none of the creatures can attack, thanks to them only having one card in hand and an Ensnaring Bridge. A Return to Dust would be nice. Sheoldred will force us to sacrifice a plant. We'll get the Braids trigger on the stack first. Let's just go for... yeah, we'll just get down the Basri's Lieutenant, I think, because we'd like double the counters on Colonian Hydra. So Juniper Order Ranger triggers, putting a plus counter on the Basri's Lieutenant. Basri's Lieutenant will put a plus counter on Sun Titan. And then, like I said, we have to sacrifice a plant to Sheoldred. Can't make any more plants while the Immortal Sun is in play. Then we add 2 mana with the Vineyard. Draw into Command Tower. So let's get that down. Go for Hardened Scales first of all. Then the Branching Evolution. Then we'll go for Garrick's Uprising. Do we want Gavany Township held up? I think it would be a good idea for Gavany Township because I think we're in board wipe territory at this point. So can we just put 1 into Hooded Hydra? It will have quite a few plus counters on it thanks to Juniper Order Ranger. Yeah, we don't actually have to put that much mana into the Hooded Hydra. Although we can cast it face down, can't we? The morph cost is quite expensive, yeah. Then we'll go for Garrick's Uprising. I do want to make sure to hold up enough mana for the Gavany Township. We'll get a treasure counter on this player's turn, I dare say. We draw a card with that when it enters because we do control a creature with power 4 or greater. Champion of Lamholt is really good once we get rid of this thing. So let's go for some treasures, and X can just be 1 on the Hooded Hydra because the 1 will turn into 2 with this. That will turn into 4 with this, and then it'll get some more plus counters with that. So for only 3 mana, we're actually going to get a very big Hooded Hydra here. And then during one of our opponent's turns, we can go for the Gavany Township as well. So there we go. Comes down with the 4 plus counters on it. Garrick's Uprising will trigger, drawing us another card. Okay, that's not the removal we wanted. It jumps up to 8 plus counters thanks to the Juniper. And yes, I think we are leaving things like that. We can't swing in, unfortunately. Cheating in a Reverent Hoplite this time. And they get some human tokens equal to their devotion to white. That'll just be 1 in this case. But they do get to play that before the Sheoldred resolves, so getting rid of a token here maybe. That's exactly what they go for. And we do get the treasure token, as you would assume, so now we can tap down Gavany Township, put 4 mana into it, and it's a hell of a lot of plus counters on all of our stuff. Alright, Bastion of Remembrance. They don't need to get into combat to get aristocrat shenanigans going off. This will give them a token that they can point at a creature they don't like the look of as well. And it looks like they are going after a creature now. Pointing themselves at the Sheoldred, and they'll get to drain everyone for 1 with the Bastion of Remembrance. Still going in hard at the Sheoldred player. We do need to start looking at the Group Hug player as well, though. Yeah, the mono black player scoops at that. They don't like the idea of getting ganged up on. So now it's a case of seeing if Group Hug can actually get themselves any closer to winning this one. They don't cheat anything into play there with the Braids. Drawing another card with the Immortal Sun. So up to 3 cards in hand. One of them was a land because they just played one. So let's see what they can get off of Sunbirds this time around. A Progenitor Mimic, that should get them into something really good. Oh, they do have Possibility Storm in the deck, unfortunately. So that'll make it tricky to get rid of their permanents. And yeah, of course, they go for the Possibility Storm. So we just need to get into any instant at this point. Getting themselves another Stuffy Doll. With the Progenitor Mimic, they will get 1 during every upkeep. And one more spell to cast by the looks of it. Going for Sculpting Steel, maybe another copy of Stuffy Doll. Hopefully not another Ensnaring Bridge anyway. Oh, of course, it won't even be a Sculpting Steel thanks to Possibility Storm now, will it? Anyway, revealing more cards into Darksteel Mirror. And then Possibility Storm will change the Sculpting Steel into something else. An Angel's Trumpet, I don't know that one. All creatures have Vigilance at the beginning of each player's end step. Tap all untapped creatures that player controls that didn't attack this turn. And it deals damage to the player equal to the number of creatures tapped this way. Alright, so that goes nicely with the Ensnaring Bridge. So at this point we need to start looking at gaining life. There's a creature here, or a couple of creatures, Platinum Angel and the Naya one. And then there is the Priest, Magus of the Disc there. Might be worth leaving Magus of the Disc in the graveyard actually, just in case this player can reanimate it and help us out. Don't want to lose my board, but I also don't want to lose to this type of shenanigans. It's actually the best group hug deck I've seen this, because so often they focus on helping their opponents out and not actually winning the game themselves. We are not going to play a land. So it's nice to see a group hug deck that is actually capable of winning. We just draw into another land, not having the best of luck there, are we? So let's go for the Gavany Township activation at the end of the turn. And I think this will be 4+ counters. Yep, 4+ counters on everything. 1 from Gavany Township, 2 from Hardened Scales, 2 in total. And then double that up with Branching Evolution from Jumpstart. Makes 4+ counters. Now let's go for Scavenging Ooze onto the Naya creature. And this will gain us a little bit of life. It also keeps our opponent from doing anything tricky with reanimation. Definitely don't want them to have a Platinum Angel available to them. Then we'll leave the disc in the graveyard here. And we'll go after the Priest of Forgotten and leave the graveyard hate at that. Now let's hope that we don't just get into another land here. We'll cheat in the Colonian Hydra here. That will get us into a card draw with Garrick's Uprising. And another land, yeah, not a whole lot we can do if we just draw into lands the whole time. Alright, Rishkar's Expertise is a sorcery that's going to get wrapped up in Possibility Storm, but maybe we get into Austere Command. Yeah, let's try our luck with that. I mean, there's every chance that we just get into a ramp spell, but yeah, there's nothing we can do. We'll just have to go for Rishkar's Expertise and keep our fingers crossed. Alright, a Wrath of God. Do we have to cast that? No, we don't have to, and I think I'd rather take the damage, to be honest. Yeah, so let's say no to a Wrath of God. Might as well play some Petal Grove. We'll go for the Ravenous Slime as well. I'm not sure what creature we could get into. Maybe Night of Autumn. I'm not sure if Rex Sage is in here as well. Ha, there we go. Night of Autumn, called it up. So we play Night of Autumn. We go after their Ensnaring Bridge. They've only got 1 card in hand. I'm not sure we know what it is. That gets plus counters on it. And Night of Autumn is destroy target artifact or enchantment. We go for the Ensnaring Bridge. And hopefully we're getting rid of them this turn. They tap down their own creatures with the Angel's Trumpet. So we can just turn sideways in at them this turn. But they can make the Mizzium Transreliquate, a copy of that. So that'll save them this turn. When's it a copy until? Yeah, until the end of the turn. So unless they can get that back, we should get them next turn, hopefully. Yeah, I don't care about holding up Gavany Township. Let's try the Champion of Lamholt as well. We should have Reclamation Sage in the deck. I'm not entirely sure. Chances of hitting it aren't that great. Well, Armorcraft Judge will draw us a bunch of cards at least. Not sure if we can survive the swing back from all of this. I think we can. They actually don't have that much damage on board, do they? Anyway, let's see what we draw into with the Armorcraft Judge. Unfortunately, don't have a means of actually casting anything at this point. Maybe shouldn't have gone for the Rishkar's Expertise. Yeah, well, apparently we weren't getting into anything anyway. Yeah, the module could take us into Hangerback Walker, which is more Wrath Protection. But it could also just take us into a rock. Yeah. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. We'll hold on to our mana. So now Angel's Trumpet will trigger, and we got a couple more creatures into play. Oh, 3 more with the Colonian Hydra, so we are going to take a bit of a hit here. 3, 6, 9 and 10 go down to 21. And then let's discard some lands at this point. The Mardu player cheating in Garner the Bloodflame. That's a really good one for human tribal. Nice haste enabler for them. They have still not gotten into the red mana thanks to having to sacrifice it at the beginning of the game. The mountain is still there. Although they are getting ramped by the Eladamri's Vineyard at least. Skullclamp going into the Possibility Storm. And I was wondering if they had Nev's Disc in the deck, because they do have the Magus of the Disc, as we already saw. So maybe we have to take out 2 players at once, which we should be able to do next turn, if not for another Ensnaring Bridge type effect. We don't want to see any propaganda or anything like that. Then Trynn, Champion of Freedom, comes down. And they'll be able to make a human token at the beginning of the end step, although it will be tapped down, and deal some damage to them. Their Trynn is going to have haste here, though. So, probably just worth attacking someone anyway. Now, Unruly Mob being cast into the Possibility Storm will get them into another creature. A Zulaport Cutthroat, that might be relevant. Now, who are they going to swing in at? Okay, deciding to swing in at Nissa. I think we've pretty much given up on Nissa at this point, but our opponent is obviously showing some concern there, so that is 4, 5 and 6, getting rid of her. And the creatures do have vigilance thanks to the Angel's Trumpet. Then at the end of the turn, the Nissa has been dealt with. The Trumpet will tap these down, deal 5 damage to our opponent. Oh, and of course the Angel's Trumpet doesn't tap these down, does it, because they attack this turn? Yeah, that's how it works. It doesn't just tap everything down, it forces people to enter combat. So it's just a case of seeing if Kynaios Tiro can draw into enough cards, see enough cards with Sunbirds to wipe our board maybe, but even then, I don't necessarily fancy their odds. They are going to get a token copy of Stuffy Doll. Does this have Defender? No, it doesn't, so they can attack in with that, and it won't be untapped. So we have to be careful swinging in, although if we just trample straight through this, it will kill them off, put this on the stack, and then this will be removed from the stack once they've died. So I don't think we have to worry about Stuffy Doll as long as we can deal enough damage to them going wide. Anyway, they're going to draw a card from the Immortal Sun as usual. Up to 3 in hand now. Making a land takes them down to 2. And we need to be wary of the fact that they can make another Stuffy Doll with the Mizzium Transreliquate. Going for a copy of something now. Oh, they're making a copy of the Nevinrel's Disc. That's very clever. So, yeah, that will actually be untapped. So they can wipe the board this turn. There we are. So an untapped Nevinrel's Disc. And there we go. Destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. Maybe that's why our opponent dealt with the Nissa. Because we would be able to activate it again. We're going to end up with creatures here anyway. Alright, and then in response to Nevinrel's Disc, that activation being on the stack, they are going to make it a copy of an indestructible artifact. Very clever. So let's allow that. And then I think we need to... Do we have any creatures left to exile? Yeah, I think we definitely need to get rid of Ensnaring Bridge while we've got the chance. Before our Scavenging Ooze gets blown up, we'll get rid of Magus of the Disc to gain a life as well. So it turns out that the instant speed, make a copy of an artifact, really saved our opponent there. We were going to get them last turn if it wasn't for that. So it's very well played by them. Yeah, so I think we'll just hold up the 2 mana for next turn. We'll leave it at that. We will leave the Brought Back in the human player's graveyard. I don't think that's going to bite us, but we'll find out. Ugh, and a bunch of triggers going on the stack now, with the Zulaport Cutthroat and the Bastion of Remembrance. I think they should maybe... I'm not sure who they go after, to be honest, because there's still indestructible stuff over here. I bet they've got Blasphemous Act or Chain Reaction, something like that in this deck. If they don't, they should consider it, because 13 damage onto each Stuffy Doll would be really good for them. Anyway, we get some creatures from Basri's Lieutenant, exactly why it's in here. And we'll get some tokens from the Hooded Hydra as well. Now, which of these are actually... Yeah, that one's not going to deal damage to us. That one is going to deal damage to the Mardu player. That one's going to deal damage to the Mardu player as well. So surprisingly, none of these Stuffy Dolls are actually going to deal damage to us. This one could be turned into a Stuffy Doll, but it won't have a name on it, because I think you choose the name as it enters. Yeah, when it enters the battlefield, choose a player, so there's not too much point in turning this Mizium Transwilliquit into a Stuffy Doll. Where's all the drain going anyway? Okay, it's been shared between us, so we are at 10 life, 11 life over here. They jump up to 45. It would be funny if the Mardu player ended up winning after all this time. I think Cathar's Crusade is what we want to rely on here. Maybe Cathar's Crusade and Animation Module. How much do we pay into Animation Module? Yeah, it is 1 per counter that goes on, so I think we can go off with that next turn. So the Group Hug player being forced to wipe the board, and we get ourselves into Mana Crypt. I don't think... maybe we can risk a Mana Crypt, I don't know. Let's go for... Yeah, let's go for Cathar's Crusade first of all. Yeah, and then I think we can risk a Mana Crypt, so let's go for that. And then we'll play our Shalai, I think. And hopefully we can win this turn. Go for the Animation Module first. Then in for our Shalai. Don't know if we've cast it this game, actually. We do have 2 mana to put into the Animation Module, which means we get a couple of servo tokens, which means we get a load more plus counters on our stuff. So Shalai enter inputs plus counters on all of our creatures. Just 1 apiece, thanks to our enchantments getting wiped out. And that causes a bunch of Animation Module triggers. Don't know if I want to auto-yield to those, because it might crash the client, so let's just go through them one at a time. We'll say yes to the first one. Actually, that wasn't the best idea, was it? Because it's going to add a bunch more Animation Module triggers on here. Yeah, maybe should have clicked through all of them and then said yes to the last one. Anyway, what's happening here is we get a servo token from saying yes to the Animation Module, which triggers Cathar's Crusade again, putting a plus counter on all of our stuff, which will trigger a bunch of Animation Modules again. Unfortunately, we don't have the mana to go for all of this, but it should be enough damage. Right, so with all these on the stack, I'm going to go for an auto-yield and then manually say no to everything. And hopefully it won't break. You do have to be very careful putting so many triggers on the stack on Magic Online. If any of you are looking into playing Magic Online, this is the type of thing you want to try and avoid, really, because it does break the client. But if you go through the triggers one at a time, it does take an age, but hopefully you've got some patient opponents like we do here, and you'll be able to click through them one at a time. Alright, so finally, getting down to the last trigger here. Big thank you to my opponents for being so patient there. Let's tap down our last piece of mana. And there we will say yes. I'm going to try and auto no and yield to all the Animation Module triggers, and if it crashes the game then so be it. We'll just assume that I win this one. Annoyingly, for any of you that wanted to play Animation Module, you actually can't auto no. Yeah, most triggers you can auto no and auto yes. Anyway, this player decided to scoop it, so that's fair enough. None of the damage was going to come back at us from the Stuffy Doll anyway, because we weren't named with any of those for some reason. I'm not sure why they didn't name us. We had a lot of creatures in play throughout the entire game, so that would have been a good rattlesnake effect against us. So there we are. Big thank you to friend of the channel Meletis for playing that out. I think he was really unlucky in the early game there by having to sacrifice his red source. Only just got into another red source now. Yeah, so we'll have to try and play him again with his Mardu Humans deck, see how it performs. But yeah, very well played last few turns there from our opponents, I think. We'll say good game to our opponents. Again, big thank you to Meletis for playing that out, because that was a pretty rough one for them. And I hope that all of you enjoyed it, got to see exactly what we want to do with this deck. Shalai, Voice of Plenty, a +1/+1 counter themed deck. The list is in the description, same as always. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.